The dumbest change in Season 2 of Marvel Rivals has got to be the system changes of the SR ranking system. They're going to be increasing the weight of individual performances after every game, so the better you perform, the more points you'll earn in victory, and the fewer points you will lose in defeat. So on paper, this sounds great, just like any political action, but in practice, this has got to be one of the worst changes ever, because how are you even supposed to measure individual performance? Is it based on some hidden system that they have never revealed yet, or is it something that's linked similar to the MVP system? So if it is the MVP system, this has to be one of the dumbest systems ever, because there are a lot of heroes out there that just get MVP much more than others. Not to mention the same thing happens with playstyles. When I play competitive Marvel Rivals, I play to try to win as much as I can. If we take a look at my match history right now, you'll see that my highest win rate champion is going to be Rocket at 60%, but I have 0 MVPs and SVPs on him because Rocket just never gets it if you play it the Healbot way, which is the way I do it. I'm not saying that's the best way to play, I'm not saying that's a worse way to play, that's just how I play Rocket. Pretty much the same thing is happening when I play Captain America and Magneto, but when I play the Thing, I get MVP or SVP around 35% of the time. So if it is linked to the MVP system, should I just play Thing every single game even though my win rate is worse? I honestly have no clue, but according to the stats that the game calculates, I perform better on the Thing than I do on all my other champions. And yeah, I know everyone's gonna insult my Magneto win rate of 37%, but there's a lot of bias in this data because pretty much the only time I play Magneto is when I have to solo tank. And when you solo tank, your stats just end up being a lot worse every single time. One, because the game is harder, because 1-3-2 just does worse than 2-2-2. And also, you're pretty much the only point presence on your team. So if you want to win the game, at least in my experience, you pretty much need to take out all your ego and just try to help your team as much as you can, because that's pretty much the primary job of a solo tank. But your stats take a huge hit. I've had games where I win on solo tank and I'm like 5-4 and my other players are like 10-1. But was I supposed to not pick tank that game, have no tank for the team, and just play 4 DPS instead? That doesn't sound that great, but I am actively being punished for picking solo tank, because again, my stats are probably gonna look a bit worse. To be honest, I think my best champion has got to be Captain America, and he pretty much never shows up on the stat sheet because there are 2 ways to play him. One of them is being really aggressive and trying to kill a lot of healers. The other way is to be an objective troll. And I play the objective troll playstyle where I just sit on the cart and waste a lot of time for the enemy team. If these changes go through and I'm on defense, should I step on the cart 1v5 and just pop my ultimate and burn 20 seconds doing that? Or should I just stay and hide away so that I don't die at all? That way my KDA is better, so maybe the game rewards me for that. There are many other ways this system is flawed apart from KDA, because damage and healing numbers probably play a big factor into it as well. If I do the most damage in the game, does that mean I'm the best player on that team? For sure not, right? Even if it's just comparing to the other DPS players. Here's a game where I was playing with my friend where he went 33-2-2 and had 23 final hits, 7 of them being solo. Meanwhile, the other DPS went 34-4 with 16 final hits and only 4 solo kills. Guess who got MVP that game? The Squirrel Girl did, all because she did 8,000 more damage. But you gotta ask yourself, was that 8,000 damage actually productive? If you just hit tanks all day, you can just get huge damage numbers while not actually killing anything and actually feeding support ultimates to the enemy team. Like you could just go Moon Knight and just spam hit tanks, or just go Groot if you are a tank and just get a lot of value off your vine walls. But if you want to be patient, take flanks, take angles, maybe peel for your supports, you're not going to have as high damage numbers as someone who's just hitting the tanks 24/7, and then you won't get MVP or SVP. This would all be solved if Marvel Rivals released how they're tracking individual performance, because perhaps it's not even related to that system, but since that's the only thing we see on our end, how can it be the case otherwise? I don't have proof of this, but when the game came out, 2 of my friends duoed together in normal games to level up, and they both never played solo, they only played together. But one of them got to level 10 before the other person, even though they were both getting into the same exact games. I know when you win, you gain more XP than when you lose, but what could possibly explain why 2 players winning the same amount of games, playing the same amount of games, being different levels? And I think the answer to that is that one player got MVP and SVPs much more often than the other, which again doesn't make any sense because it's a team game based around an objective, and there's a lot of things you do that just do not show up in the stat sheet. What's more important, getting a huge damage number, getting a lot of takedowns, or getting the actual final hits, and especially the solo final hits, where you win a 1v1 and cause your team to enter a 6v5. There's some fights where you can get 3 kills by dealing 1,000 damage, and there are other team fights where you can deal 5,000 damage but only get 1 kill because your damage is just getting out healed. They did try this system in Overwatch before, but they did eventually remove it, from what I understand. There's another factor which is not calculated in this, which is shot calling. I know a lot of people win a lot more games because they shot call, and again, that does not show up in the stat sheet. For example, my friend calls out every single Luna ult and gives everyone a countdown on when it'll be up. And there are so many times where everyone just focuses all their abilities on the enemy team right as the ult ends, and we end up getting a ton of kills and a lot of wins from that shot calling. But again, that doesn't get noticed in this individual performance system, assuming it's based on stats. Look at this game here where my invisible woman hears the enemy team portal, says nothing, thinks her push interrupts it when it doesn't, only stuns interrupts range portal, and then she just misses the entire point fight because she's completely out of position. She doesn't actually get a death here because she can just stay invisible while everyone else on the team is going to die. Does that count positively towards her individual performance when it's just a completely dog water play? What about this game where I'm on Captain America and I just sit behind the point and the enemy doesn't realize anything's happening, and I just end up burning 30 to 40 seconds for completely free? And if you think my rank is too low, that play is bad, here's someone doing it at 1 above all and burning, I think, a full minute off the clock just by standing behind on the cart. During this whole time, Captain America is taking 0 damage and also dealing 0 damage, but it's not going to help them get MVP or SVP, that's for sure. Also, for shot calling, there is going to be people who are very vocal in chat in positive ways, and that's not included in individual performance because, again, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. It does, however, show up in your win rate, which is the whole point of the game, right? So I don't know why they move off a system that isn't about winning, because that really should just be all that matters. The only objective should be winning. It shouldn't be primary objective of winning and then secondary objective of having good stats. Another way stats don't tell the full story is when your whole team gets wiped. It could always be because one idiot overstepped, got killed, and then now it's a 5v6. Of course, everyone else on that team is going to die because they're just down a whole player. If your Spider-Man jumps in and ints and then you die because you're completely outnumbered, is that really your fault? Maybe according to the individual performance system, it could be. I know we've talked a lot about tanks and DPS. What about healers? Well, a very weird decision healers can make is whether they want to pump their healing numbers up or if they want to actually heal crucial targets. So it really doesn't matter which healer you play. In pretty much every game, you have the choice between healing the tank, healing a healer, or healing a DPS. If you want to get the highest stats, you obviously want to heal the tanks because they have the most health and take the most damage. But let's say one of your particles heals for like 50 health, it's going to be worth a lot more if you hit it on a DPS or other healer than it would be on a tank in terms of percent HP, because 50 health on a 250 health target means a lot more than someone with 700 health or 800 health. So this is literally disincentivizing healers from healing non-tanks. Again, all this is assuming if their healing decisions do not affect the outcome of the entire game, because you obviously still want to win the game, they just made it less important. Based on how they worded it out in the patch notes though, it does imply that they were already weighting individual performances, but I just wish they released what that actually meant so people could play around it. I know people say this is going to be a good thing because Smurfs should be able to climb a little bit faster, but I have a newsflash for people with that opinion. Like, a regular elo system already gets rid of that problem, because if you have a high win rate and low amount of games played, any basic elo system would just accelerate your elo gain, and then you'll climb out really quickly anyways. So it doesn't even help the Smurf situation that much. You also have to keep in mind, Smurfing's not that big of a part of the game. It happens sometimes, yeah, but since a lot of people talk about it, they think it happens more than it actually does. But let me know your thoughts about what you think about the increased weighting on individual performances. I, for one, will for sure be playing less Captain America, and if I do, I'll be doing less of the sitting on point thing, even though I think it is the optimal strategy if you want to win the game, which I thought was the whole point of this. And I'm probably just gonna spam thing every game, get MVP or SVP like 35 to 40% of the time, and just try to inflate my stats by dealing as much damage as possible and tanking as much damage as possible. But I'm really not looking forward to encouraging KDA players and essentially adding a secondary objective for everyone in the game, which makes them not want to work in a team environment. But that's going to be it from us today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and we'll see you all next time.